This is the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.
Lekker Rugby Pod. Welcome to the worst day of Don Quixote, MV Welman's life, surrounded by blue blood stormers instead of that light blue of the north. Our guest today on the Lekker Rugby Pod is a lawyer, he's a writer, he's a lover, he's a sinner, and a damn good coach. He has written a novel about a gherkin in which his protagonist, a highly confused oak from Cape Town named Jason Bryden, wanders through a year making goals like learn to kite surf, do a comrades, take Tai Chi, decide if a tattoo is cool or scummy, lose 6 to 9 kgs, get a girlfriend, get chest and guns for the beach. But this guy never achieves, mostly because he fixates on the top 10 concerns of 2010, including that he will still be celibate, lose his hair, and getting fired. This is not, I repeat, this is not an autobiography of our guest's life, because Jason is a bit of a dous. He's vapid, he's unaware, he's a navel gazer, and our guest has never once inspected his belly button. This man began 365 Media, a rugby digital empire. He's the only coach in South Africa, MVA, that has lifted that funky Irk trophy as a winner. He works backwards, getting a law degree, then an MBA, then a creative writing degree. He followed his hilarious parody novel, Year of the Gherkin, with Year of the Turnip. What's next? The Year of the Fig. We call him Dobbo, but his full God-given name is John, son of Paul, late, great, and beloved Bishop's historian of rugby, and their surnames are Dobson. Dobbo is none other than the coach of the DHL Stormers, home with the coolest kids and the hottest cheerleaders, the fairest peninsula, and the finest flats and foothills of rugby's most blessed talent catchment, bathed by the currents of all that is good and true under the sheltering skies of the mountain, which needs no introduction, the highest performing team by percentage of wins in Super Rugby, not the Bulls, and the Irk, not the Bulls, and still undefeated in my heart. I give you, ladies and gentlemen, and Bulls fans, John flippin' Dobson. How's it, Dobson? How's it, Dobbo? You really are not blushing, I don't think.
It's the best introduction I've ever had. It was poetry. Thanks, Harry. Not true.
But we have to start out, and then we're gonna introduce MV into this discussion. But let's just jump to it, man. What does Evan Roos need to do? What are the work-ons, man? What's Rassie talking to you about? Come on.
Jeepers, that's a powerful. That's one across the bows to start. I'm not sure. I know there's an issue. I've been, around his carry height. It's hard for me to answer more than that.
Just run low. Just run low, son. Just get in there.
Yeah, run low, and I think there's some concern around. So push down tackles and going for this. Norman's Lake, our defense coach, calls him a Waruda word. He doesn't pronounce the H, if you know what I mean, of the push down tackle. But it's a tricky one in these parts, isn't it, Harry? Everyone debates.
I just got that out of the way because so many people said, you can talk to Dobbo, you got to ask the Roos question. I'm like, okay, guys, you want us to be rude? I'll be rude off the bat. Listen, Dobbo, what I like about you, I want to cover this first, is that being a coach in today's world, being directing of any kind of rugby, leading a rugby team, especially in the Western Cape in South Africa, is a very complicated thing. It's like when people ask me, what does HR do? Are they a corporate conscience, a cop, a cheerleader, or a Coldplay concert goer? I don't know. Maybe all of the above. You've had 8 overlapping bosses. You've got seasons that cut into each other. You have to have squads where players play in 2 different competitions at the same time. Kind of explain to us, what is a day in the life of Dobbo? What do you like? What is actually you doing? Are you a tracksuit coach? Are you doing, storyboarding? What's happening?
It's a complex one because this whole thing probably across the world, and probably more complicated here. You do have a director of rugby and a head coach, and I think even NBA referred to. I'm not sure I'm the best technical coach in the world. I think that narrative is out there. I think I do have 1 or 2 technical strengths, but I'm not the best sort of game reader, strategist. That I'm not. I like things around the breakdown, the maul, and that, but I'm not a. But so why I say that is you want to create this sort of everybody says to you the differences in the top couple of inches, the culture, the team, and that. So That's what I think is the differentiator, because Harry, we're using the same. We're all using sports code. We're all doing the same GPS. We're all using catapult. We're measuring the same stuff. And if the edge is going to come there, then I've got to say, okay, if I want to be director of rugby, which I can, then I put somebody else to head coach. Then I'm going to be removed from the team, because if you're going to appoint a head coach, you've got to give him his space to select, to make the substitutions, and you've probably got to contract what he wants, so you can't hold him accountable. Vice versa, if I'd said to him, the ownership, okay, I just want to be a head coach, you can appoint another director of rugby, then I'll feel, okay, then I can't control the whole environment. Do we have the physios who believe in what we're trying to do here? Do they understand the project, how important this team is to the people of the Western Cape? How are we trying to connect? Because it's a big project. So I've sort of tried to do both, and obviously some plates break. And I think what we're going to try and do is stratify it more around senior and junior than around director of rugby. But at the moment, it's pretty broad, because you deal with, the coffee machine. We ran out of coffee today, tragedy of tragedies. And the players, Ruan was banging on the door. What's going on here? He's going, Bulls have probably got, they probably got Costa or something. We haven't got that. But it's all encompassing now. But you'd remember old Rob Wagner, who was a CEO here for years. He's sort of here. He does a lot of the contracting stuff for me and looks after a lot of the junior stuff. But it's all encompassing. But because at the moment in the building, it's a one-team facility. We've got the under-19s, we've got the under-21s, we've got the all-conquering Currie Cup team, and we've got URC team in pre-season. And it's all the staff and the personnel issues. But my real job was, is to coach the senior team. So I'm giving you a very long answer, but I think there's too much of a soccer sort of transfer of how important the manager is. We're a foursome who've been together for a long time, and Darby Snyman is the lead coach. And he's really good. Norman's the respected defense coach. Rita Strongwani, I think, speaker. So I get all the credit. We win that trophy. But hell, it's a bit awkward, the head coach. People ask the head coach for the guy who looks like a potato for a selfie. But I think jeepers, the work has been put in by Darby and Norman, and it's a bit awkward. We really regard ourselves as I'm not trying to be polite, as a coaching team. So I sort of do the admin, front up to the media, look after the relations with the owners, try and make sure it's a nice environment. But these are the real coaches of the other three.
You've always been a supercharging kind of coach, though, from fourth team UCT, Ikes, all the way up. You're a guy that, and I think inherent in that is you don't make excuses, or maybe you do behind closed doors, build us against the world, but in publicly you embrace the diversity of the Western Cape. You love your constituencies. You love your Cape colored, fans that are thick and thin, sickness and in health, poor, richer or poorer. I mean, they'll show up literally with, nothing, and they'll support you to the end. And by my count, about 700-ish players with origins in the Western Cape are earning a living via rugby at home or abroad in the world.
Really?
Which is staggering, because you can only, employ about less than 100. So that won't change. It's like you're fishing, you're like an island where everyone gets to fish off your shores, but you cannot go, fish except for Ben Loader. So how do you not make excuses like the Blue Bulls, where you say, everyone's taking our players. You just got to find the right ones to keep, the Frans Malherbes, the Kitshoffs, the Willemses.
Yeah.
How does it work? Yeah.
Harry, you spot on in that summary of everything. I actually went out. I don't know if have you been to watch it into schools yet? The boys high. It's my first one this week. And you watch their second team, and
30,000 people.
Yeah. And you watch the second teams, and you think, I'd recruit half of them if I could. It's tricky here because people say, "Oh, you let Cameron Hanekom go," but if you think about those three Parboys, number 8s in a row, were Frank Horn, who was blocked. I can't remember who was blocking him. Maybe it was Trokke Augustus. Yeah, so he went to the Lions. Then Evan Roos went to the Sharks. We got him back. Then we couldn't recruit Cameron because Cameron would say, "Hang on, there's Evan Roos." You know what I mean? It's the same now. We're taking a battering around Hashim Peed. But Hashim Peed looked up and he saw Imad Khan, who he thinks is going to be a superstar, and then Asad Mus, who's obviously also got a good reputation, and he thought, okay, well, I'm blocked by in terms of young scrum halves, these guys are in front of me. So if I'm going to the Lions, but the real challenge was we were self-inflicted. That political mess we put ourselves in, it was, and we've still got some improvements to do. But the new ownership have made a massive difference. Almost the professionalization of the Stormers. Whether that's stupid stuff like Ticketmaster and actually paying salaries on time, and the whole thing starting to become the less of the front pages of a report rather than the back pages, and I think that's getting our own house in order to make sure. So next year we start for the first time, the Stormers, first time since we collapsed it, the Stormers Rugby Institute. It used to be Western, and that's where the Kitsoffs, Maherbers, Khaleesi, Etzebeth, Dialende, Cheslin Colby all came through that. So we're restarting that next year. If we won't get all the talent ID right, and a lot of these guys bloom, but there's they're just, as you said, too many stories of a Kirtley or a Kanan, and that if we just get that right. So we got the big thing for us was this Marcus Miller signing. If we could have kept the best schoolboy South Africa's probably produced in a couple of years, that shows we're in the right direction. So I think it's a bit like the rest of the world viewed South Africa, that once they get organized and well coached and well administered and all that, then we're in shit. I think the Stormers, once the Stormers get that production line and starts keeping the best of their talent, then I think we pose a threat to others, because we're not competing financially yet, but we certainly, as you suggest, we got the talent is on our doorstep. This region is going to be the most freakish rugby region in the world.
Yeah, I mean, Hashim Pete from Burkhardt could look down and see the stadium. The Stormers won the first ERC, as we call it, the URC challenge, second with the home final, seemed to be in the top 4 in general or thereabouts. But to get back at the top, you got to overcome a team with 9 to 10 British and Irish line starters, and then your SA rivals, even the Bulls. So what is the plan? Sounds like a 4 to 5 year plan, or are we talking a 2 to 3 year plan? Do you even do that, and can you?
Harry, you very well. It's the first time we spoke, but you're very, very well informed. Now, why I say that, because if we were to want to win let's say, wanted to be in the Invested Champions Cup final in 26 or 27, we'd have to write a check for 200 million rand, literally right now. You can't grow that organically. You have to go Sharks, and you have to get Oxenchair and Eben Etzebeth and all that. Now, our ownership, their first prize is sustainability. So rugby survives in the Western Cape, and the people of the Western Cape have got it. It's not the proprietary of some Russian oligarch or eccentric Frenchman, and it belongs to the people. So that our model is to do it organically. We want to try and be in Europe in 2029, try and be in the final. And for that to happen, we have to grow. It's this institute and growing this squad that we've got now. So very few guys. So we're working backwards. Everybody must be able to play in 2029. I don't think Kobus Reinach is necessarily out the picture, nor is he in the picture. He was just because we lost 2 scrum halves very, very quickly. But everything else is going around. That if I can get, these guys are Vernon Matonga, Paul de Villiers, Conor Evans, Lionel, Sazi Sandi, Adre Hugo Fent, Sasha, obviously we all know, Johnny Roche. These guys get to 29 when most of them are capped by South Africa. They're all on 70, 80 to 100 Stormers caps. I think we could. So what we've done now, you'll see the Currie Cup looks painful for us now. So that MBS team that thrashed us last weekend in Cape Town, we've hollowed out all the all the sort of journeymen, the coaches' comforts guys, the guys that we're going for. The top guys must be able to win a Champions Cup in a couple of years, and the best youngsters we can keep. And that means we have got no sort of home guard team. So the Bulls are in a magic position now. I think that team that thrashed us last weekend, our Currie Cup team in Cape Town, could beat Zebra at home, which means they've got a fresh team to play Investec at Champions Cup the next week. We don't have that. You can see it in the Currie Cup now. And so we're going to take shots in this tournament. But in 2 years' time, when Marcus Miller and Corne Velbach and Oliver Reed, what a name for a prof. Oliver Reed and Zach Porthen and Herman Libber are that middle tier guys, but they're 23-year-olds with 20 Stormers caps. Then I think we're in a golden space. So it's a 3 or 4 year project for us to make it financially and also morally. It's just for the region that these are the guys we're bringing through is really important to us. But do we survive the narrative of, let's say, coming 7th this year or 6th, because the expectation is so high that the men's expect it. People turn on us, and then the WhatsApp group's going, and we've got to be able. Are we strong enough? Because it's easy for me to go and sell to the board and say, this is our plan. It's a fantastic plan, and they buy into it. They want it. But when the heat's on and the people are calling you rude words in the streets and the WhatsApp, then we've got to see if we survive that. Yeah.
It's such a curious industry profession in a way. Those of us who have played, we've been injured, and we've been injured sometimes really badly. So it's like every workforce has worker injury, but rugby is unusual because for sure in this 5-year, 6-year plan with you know that in the next 3 or 4 years, someone you do not want to have injured is going to be injured, sometimes for a long time. And so when you're planning and you're doing contracts, I mean, what do you do? Do you kind of have positions that you think are more likely to get hurt, or do you just have to go in the lap of the gods, and figure it out?
No, that's another really good question, because we've just had that pretty much with Marnie, Lubbock, and Sasha. Because Marnie we had on a long-term deal, and he's a very popular player, and he's done us proud. And then we had Sasha. Now, I think anybody can understand, Sasha's under contract to 27, but if you want to keep him for this 29 project, that's eye-watering in terms of there's no club in the world that's not going to write a check for Sasha Feinberg and Mazulu. So could we afford? I could see at the end of last season when both were in the chain, people said to me the whole season, how are you ever going to fit Sasha, Marnie, Damien and Warwick into the same team? We never had that problem until towards the end of the season, and then Damien got a red card. But I could see when both Marnie and Sasha, this wasn't going to work. And then the owners are going to say, jeepers, are you paying that amount for a guy you're putting on the bench? So you almost have to go your route. At the end of your question is, okay, we're going to back Sasha. We're going to take Marnie's money and try and do everything we can to keep Sasha to 2029. And then back ourselves either to produce Sasha stays fit, or to find another Sasha, which is almost impossible. Or can we adapt our game model to get through a less flat, a more military medium like a Yuri Matia? But the truth is we can't contract to replace Sasha. So we'd have Sasha, and then Damien can play 10, and then one of the other guys. But it's in the hands of the god, because you can get drilled in a position. We had Sasha and Marnie both injured for most of the season this last season. So
Yeah, I had this realization this morning, Dobbo, as I was shaving my head, because I was getting ready for this interview, and I wanted to look like you. No, I shave it every 3 days. Is you kind of to pick guys who are from the Cape, who are deeply steeped in it, and can therefore trigger these incredibly vital communities that are just now sort of waking up into creating these superstars. You kind of have to pick X factor guys, because it's not just a soldier lock. Oh, he's blue collar man. Like, it's got to be real stars. And then you get guys like me, jackling you last year of the season, going, oh, what was the scrum? The scrum didn't perform well. So where are you going? Are you going tight 5? The Stormers built. It was difficult to beat the Stormers in Super Rugby at home just because you just got scrummed off the park. Now you're looking at a different project here, which is, there's just a reality. How do you keep Sasha? How do you keep, Gaza? How do you keep these guys? And so is there a style choice there? Do you have to have more of a razzle dazzle, or am I just way off here?
No, you look, you can't have everything. And I think what we're not going to be is a sort of multi-phase, break teams down sort of team. We absolutely, I think that's what I try to, we absolutely clear on our game model. Like, that's the one thing we've got, which I don't think we had with the Stormers 4 or 5 years ago when we were at the back end of Super Rugby in COVID. We know exactly what it looks like, every position, what his metrics are, which is not. And in terms of your question, the scrum is that's why I reached out. The scrum was incredibly important. That last year we had the most devastating scrum when we got last year, the season before the one that's just finished, where we had 57 penalties for and 22 against. The scrum has been part of our culture since the 80s, when in the old Currie Cup, Hempies, and it's a massive part. And we weren't, we got done in the scrums by the Bulls here in the home game this year. And that's not, we will invest in the scrum. Losing Kitsoff and Maheba, I don't think, that is really tough in one season. I don't think we can, we will make reinforcements in that area. We already have by bringing Tuxum Tuna down, and I think he's going to be a freak. I think his scrumming is still a work in progress, but his general game is and we're going to make some other movements in that market over the next year. You may have read some of the stuff that's been rumored, but our game model is to put the opposition under pressure at set piece. Largely, that's the big thing about scrum penalties. That's territory, isn't it? Make them exit, try and put them under pressure to exit, and then we go into chaos and we counter-attack. That's loosely what our game model is. So that we need game breakers and we need people forwards who can scrum. We're not so, everything's clear to us, Harry. Like the centre yeoman, they've got to chase kicks, they've got to come back and provide numbers for the counter, and they have to go again. Dan, Dup, and Ruan, okay, they're probably in the twilights now, but that's what our centres look like. They're not flashy things, but our back three got to be X. When that chaos happens, it's got to be, and that's where the Warwicks and the Gazas and the Ciabellos and Sashas are so, yes, good. The 10 so often in backfield in our game. So we're a transition-based, chaos-based team, but we need, for that chaos has to be put the opposition under pressure, and that's where the scrum's so important. I think really poor team in multi-phase rugby. I'm not sure that's going to change. 22 conversion. Number 1 with 22 entries. Number 14th with 22-meter conversions. So obviously fixes, but we're just not a sort of grinding team, But yeah, we probably stick to our game model, which is beefing up the scrum, and that's important to us. And but we've always got to, because those people that, and I think Harry, you referred to those people, you hit the nail on the head. It's like something I talk to the team all the time. I show them pictures of the crowd. Those people who come watch us now aren't what I grew up in, which were Joneses and Dobsons and Taylors, and we all sat on the lower grandstand, and the Jews were the upper grandstand. What game are you watching, referee? And the Afrikaans guys on the railway stand who got there at 8 o'clock in the morning to get ready for the 3 o'clock kickoff. It's a very different crowd now. They're making a sacrifice to be there. 250 rand a ticket, or 150 or 120. It's a massive. They want to see us. They want to see us. They want to see how the team interacts with them. It can't be aloof or unrelatable, like you said. They have to relate. They must know this team, and the team must treat them with that respect that they've given up. They want us to win, which is not always a controllable, and what we haven't done enough of. They want to see there's a DNA of the style of rugby, and you remember the days of Jacques and Alistair. We never scored 4 tries. Flecky used to get a roasting every week, but we least points conceded and invariably made Super Rugby playoffs. And they want to see this team fight, because those people fight Monday to Friday to get onto their taxi, to feed their families. One thing they don't want to see is a Stormers team roll over and get their tummies tickled. And so those are the sort of characteristics of the team, and and I think our game model, we're clear of who we want. It's just whether we can afford it. But we won't get to that Leinster grind teams down way. We don't have the patience. These X-Factor guys that, you can't have a Warwick Geland and then tell him to play 14 phases. He's going to get bored and throw it into the crowd.
But you could tell him not to do offload between his legs to himself.
I'll tell you one bad story quickly at my expense. I know I've talked a lot, but we played the Scarlets in our first year in Urk, as you call it, Urk 1, and we had to win it to get the SA Shield. I think we had to win it to get a home playoff, and we were terrible. And they were all over us. And Stephen Kitsoff goes in and gets a vital steal with a few minutes to go. And I thought, we start punching the air in the coach's box, and because now we're going to kick it down into their 22, we can see the game out. And Warwick runs up and does a quick tap and passes to Marnie, kicks it straight out. So I get to pick up the you tell Warwick Geland, if he ever, and after the game, Warwick comes up to me and gives me a hug. And I said, don't worry, Warwick, I'm not too cross, because we won. And Warwick, but the thing was, my radio was off. And Warwick had never heard, sorry, if you this. Warwick had never heard me say. So the physio never put the message on. So he thought, but that's a sign of trust. Our coach never shouted at us for, but I had to leave it.
Yeah, so these are concessions to reality and commitments to values, which is there's a certain way to attack. You're going to have to do quick scoring. You're not going to do a 15-phase wide clean out with, the prop doing 3 cleans in a row.
Yeah.
This is not the way. And I actually owe you an apology. I went back after our review and kind of studied the scrums, and I think I see what you were saying, but I was grading and marking with a very high standard because of the Western Province dominance, really, I think, over a century of proper scrumming. We invented, the 3-4-1 scrums shape. It's all, it's something that's deeply held in my bosom. So when we lost 13% of scrums on our own feet, and we had sort of less success and completion, I was also eliding a little bit. I think I missed one, which is you guys were second at winning against the head in the whole comp. I think 14% of scrums that the other guy fed, you took, and you did win 31% via penalty. Not as good as the Bulls, but yeah. So that's an issue.
Yeah,
but now I think
that's the one I got. That's the one I got defensive about, probably because I don't understand that. I see it in the stats we use. I don't understand that scrums one stat genuinely.
Yeah.
The one we look at the most is penalties for, penalties against. So 2 years ago we were absolutely magic. 2 seasons ago, you're right. This season was the Bulls got far more attack. They got far more than we did. So I think last year we had a 35 differential. We're down to under 20 this year. So it was and Wilco did destroy. Do you remember Wilco destroyed us in Cape Town? And that. But there were some really good performances, And what happened at the back end of the competition with Zach Porthen and Sazi Sunday and Vernon Matonga, where we destroyed Benetton and that sort of thing. That was really, really cool, because the scrum culture is important to us, I think. But definitely a regress there, but not. I think if we look at penalties for and against, which is probably sometimes our yardstick, I think we were second or third. You're right, scrums one, we're way down, but that's the one we look at. And a slight, I reckon, defensive regression as well, possibly. I think you pointed that out, and I wouldn't defend that. It is a concern.
There's a drinking game that goes around, where someone says a word, and then you drink. And the variation of that for this pod is every time you say the word Wilco, I see MV get worried. I mean, he actually.
I'm dying to get in here because you just sort of brush it off. And Harry saw, scrums. What's going on? Yesterday morning, I opened the report and I almost had a, stuck in my coffee. And this morning, driving to Loftus, there were people in the streets protesting about this. What's going on there? Are you going to steal? What's happening?
Your report, what's it? They don't get used. I think since somebody pointed out about Harry's scrum thing, I've watched quite a few of your podcasts where I really enjoy. Wasn't there somebody who wrote one? Didn't you say at one stage Henrik and Rapport don't get it wrong? They're never wrong, didn't you?
We say it's not a fact until Hendrik says it is.
Oracle.
You've answered. Harry's answered your question for you,
John. You know what? It worried me a lot. I've been having sleepless nights because I know you were in PE and you were there to speak to some Springbok front rowers, and I'm quoting.
Oh, dearie me.
And now the worst of the possible rumors that could be. So is it going to be immediate? Is it going to be in a while? Because my friend Johan Jordan says you can have Wilco if we can have Table Mountain and paint a daisy on it, because that's your condition. How soon is it going to happen?
He's a Kaapse kind. But no, listen, we're certainly done for this season coming up. There's no new players for this season. No question. That's an impossibility. I think the discussions are because 1 July goes 1 July this year, it started last month, is the open season for the guys coming off in 26. So it's a bit of a sort of rugby's version of the sort of feeding frenzy. Yeah, we're not immune to it either. There's some people who want Warwick. There's some people who, which we haven't tied up yet. But no, you're safe for this season, NBA. I think this time next year you might have a different view.
If I may ask, Harry, sorry to interrupt you, but while we're on the subject now, you've had a long-standing rivalry with Jake White. I spoke to him again this morning, just briefly. And Joshua, are the Bulls a bigger threat next year, you think, under Johan Ackerman? What are you expecting? I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I mean, I've been chomping at the bit here. I want to know what you're thinking about the Bulls for the next season.
They're a major concern for us, I would have thought. And I'm not belittling the recruitment done. Obviously, the big names. But the development of those young forwards, those young back five forwards, is it's a good roster there. The depth is phenomenal. You see this Currie Cup team, you just realise the depth. And obviously, I mean, you can't Pollards, Vinte, They're going to be a tight team now. They would have been through various traumas, whether that's losing the final. The players, when they invest any playing group that backs themselves over, I don't know what happened. I haven't followed it closely at all, to be honest. But any team that is involved in a putsch or a player power thing, they put their names on the line now. They've said, okay, you do this. We want this to happen. They can't drop. They can't let themselves. The pressure's on them to perform as well. And we all know Johan Ackermann's. He's a powerful coach in terms that he's a good unifier of a team. He's got good values, and he's a good coach. And our guys who came from the SA20s now, like Riley Norton and them, spoke really, really highly. In fact, Riley's very disappointed he's not going to be with the SA20s next year. So, we look at where we're trying to work out where we can end this season, given our constraints and our budget, and you look and you think where the wins are and where the wins aren't going. We're not putting the Bulls down for too much, if you know what I mean. I think the Sharks, they're an older team. I think maybe we can get something there. But the Bulls, I think they're a cut above at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, Dobbo, it's funny. We probably over-exaggerate the differences in style between the top teams. The truth is that, gain line, hold, fold. There's there's choices you can make on, how high you're going to, low you're going to play. Probably the offload percentage is probably something you can have a doctrine on. And then you can sort of design your kicking game. I was struck in our conversation with Ackermann, and he said something interesting. He's keeping all the assistant coaches, but he's going to drive standards from top to bottom inside the club, from the most senior to the most junior, on attack. So there'll be attack shape, and then there's going to be defense shape. And this is something, maybe it's normal. For sure, I think Leinster does this. But then like if I am a blind side, then this is how I play. I play this way from the time I'm 17 till the time I'm 37, or Brock Harris 47. But but it's curious to me about that. It's very interesting to me because I look at the under 20s and I go, well, that's probably I like that shape for Stormers. I think Kevin Foote sort of got something there, and Ackermann's going to the Bulls. I'm nervous now. Are the Bulls going to become this? And so, what do you think about that? Having a sort of a standard throughout the whole system.
I think if you're suggesting that we're all morphing to similar, I would totally agree with you. The spring, we I think not out of necessity rather than cunning, we became a transition based team given our personnel, and then I think the Springboks, not because of us, but it was just simultaneous, discovered the joys of having X-factor players in chaotic situations. They weren't counter-attacking 3 or 4 years ago. I remember Warwick in the lost test against Wales, the one in Bloemfontein, where Warwick was standing by at the back, receiving the ball, waiting for to launch a counter and getting absolutely stuffed up because the Springboks, we were still playing that game with the forwards waited in the middle of the field. And now you see that the Bulls for a while have been heading that way as well with the transition game. If you don't want to kick poorly onto Kirtley and then. So that them being this big bludgeoners and us being these Cape freestylers, I think that it's definitely close. The Springboks are that's what's made them so successful now is their transition game. So it is closer than it used to be. I think probably the nuance is going to come in the fact that they've got forwards like they have, and they can come around the corner like that. Which we possibly have got to be a little bit more creative in that respect. But it's definitely much closer than it was in I'm older than you probably, Harry, but the old day where the long-haired Western Province people threw the ball around and these other guys, Neanderthals, came around the corner. I think it's a bit closer.
A lot of people talk about Ruas, and I'm happy to talk about that. But Ruben van Heerden, to me, is a question mark. I just feel like the guy, he doesn't miss a tackle. He carries heavy. He's always offering himself. He's wonderful in the line out, both as a banker and a thief. I mean, what does that guy got to do? Do you see him making it to the next grade?
I think he's shot. When you watch the game against Italy and you see, you look at the non-playing, the guys in the number ones in the crowd, and you see Eben Etzebeth and Erge Snyman and Franco Mostert, and you think, no, unfortunately he's an 18 carat and a 36 carat. I don't know, but he's so good. He's so competitive. He's so hard-hearted. He's so desperate. He made me phone Steve Berwick of the Barbars. He just wanted to play international rugby and have a chance to show. Because he's meant to be in his rest period. He said, Dobbo, I'll give up my rest. I just want to play. He's so. I think we're going to lose him just because of the level of disappointment. He's so keen. Just the competition's too good. I'm surprised he hasn't had a broader look in, I must say. But I don't think it's going to. I think he'll head off to. As much as I want to keep him here, I don't think we'll keep him for long.
Hey, Dobbo, you're always thinking, you got kind of this fertile brain, you love debate, you're more open than most, but you're not really a 24/7 rugby guy, I think. You're interested in lots of things. How do you avoid burnout? Is that part of it? How do you refresh yourself and get ready season after season after season?
I'm lucky that this project, I think I'm beyond too old, not good enough. I mean that, I'm not being polite, to go and coach Toshiba against Cannon in the Copier Derby, if you know what I mean. It's that this project means so much. And Harry, your connection, just the brief interactions we've had, what rugby means to this region. We're not a vanilla team dropped in and bought up by, from the taxi drivers to it's such a big project. I just want this team to be successful and exist and thrive, and so that once it's a passion thing like this and not a job, I know that I can't coach anywhere else after this. Not because I say, well, I'm good enough, but just because nothing's going to mean like this means to me. So that helps a lot when you feel like that about it. I want to go and write books, and I like Hansa Pilsner, and I like the water, but it's also, another thing, you all know that what I'm talking about here with sports, when you get knocked out by Glasgow 2 years in a row in a away court, and this one we thought we'd win. I'm not sure we thought we'd win the last one. And I think we were naive. I think I made a mistake this time. I did. Planning to get to Leinster, because we misread Glasgow form, which was largely personal, wasn't it? When Tuapoloto and them all came back, and that was okay. The 4G defending champions away on a Friday night, and obviously we'd lost Willemse and a couple of others in Merwe. I thought I was naive, but anyway, I thought we were going to win. When you have gone gently into that good night like we did the last 2 years, it's almost like the worst thing in rugby is to lose just before a bye week, because then you just hate yourself, and that's where the period we're in now. I can't wait to play again to try and put it right. We need to get top four. If we get top four, we make a semi-final, and that's where the people are. So I'm sort of driven by that in this project and having these new owners. But I say this is my life now. Unfortunately, I won't get another coaching job after this. But
man, I feel it.
Yeah,
I feel it. I believe it. I want to run through that wall behind you for you, Coach. Sorry, don't call you Coach. Dobbo and ready. So that's the toughest part of the job. Sort of this, like, the long delayed revenge. Wait a whole year. Yeah. What's the coolest part, with this incredible fan base, the vibe, as you say, just, catch an old Tani, just getting some slap chips on the street, and she's going to tell you something about your breakdown. Like, nah, you got to do this. Yeah. Isn't it just like, it's magic, isn't it?
It's absolute. You've lit the nail. I can't, we all got egos of some form, and I'm not devoid of it. And when the lady is exactly that, the flower sellers was shouting, Dobson, waar is Thomas no maak? Of Dobson, you're nine. But that we had one of our players, who I won't name, who played a hooker, would have won the Currie Cup about 10 years ago, who's played 9 minutes for the Springboks.
Okay, thanks. Got
it. A very popular figure in these parts, and has been here since that institute intake. We had a social at a bar in the Harfield village, a team, and he wants to go home, and he phones the flying squad and says, "Discover, ek soek 'n lift." And they arrive with one of those Opel Cadets, with a dog in the back. And Scarra says, "I'm not sitting with a dog." So the policeman sits with a dog, and Scarra gets a lift back. Now that's a big team, isn't it? In the city, of what it means to the people of Cape Town. So that's probably the biggest high is that. And I can sound like it's altruistic, like chasing the sun and cry, but it makes me feel lekker. It's that your ego gets straight, that the people know who you are and what this team's about. And I'm sure it's nice for our players. I once went to visit Schalk Burger and Saracens, and we said we're going to have a beer in every pub down the main street in St Albans. And he was World Player of the Year in 2004. Not in one of those pubs did anybody know who he was. It's very different. This is a big team. I think this must be one of the, not in results and not in money, but it must be one of the biggest teams in the world in terms of his entrenchment in a city and what it means to the people in the city. Yeah.
I want to ask a little bit more of a tough question, if you don't mind. I was at Loftus on Saturday when the Sharks were demolished by the Bulls.
Yeah.
JP Peterson came down. I thought it was very brave of him to come down and face. We were only 4 of us there, so that wasn't that bad, journalists, I mean. And I got the impression that the Sharks were battered emotionally, the captain and everybody else. And I'm wondering your approach to the Currie Cup. You mentioned now that you sort of hollowed out the middle so that you can have space to bring new players in, and like so, which I get. But at the same time, you're the most storied team in the Currie Cup in the history, apart from the Bulls are second to you, but by quite a long way. How do you defend that thing? How do you, not defend, it's not the right word, how do you give people some sort of a peace of mind that, listen, guys, we're working with a plan here. There's a reason why we're doing this. Just hang on, have faith in us. Do you think it's still the right approach? Do you think that blooding young players like the Sharks are specifically doing? I know you're not the Sharks, but I'm asking you, it's a similar process, similar approach. Is it not a bit of a dangerous thing to maybe break players, if I can use that word, by exposing them too much too soon? And I'm thinking back to Gaffie de Tooy, Dave van Eselen days, kind of a thing.
That's a very fair question. I've been coaching Western Province Currie Cup. I think my first year was 2015, and we made the final. We hosted the final in 2018 in Newlands when we went unbeaten. We lost it in the final to the Sharks, and we haven't made a final since then. And you're right. This is a team. They say it's Currie Beker contra. I think the people are getting. The reaction to the Bulls. If you think that Bulls game, the Currie Cup's completely dead as a product in some areas, and we had 14,900 that turned up to an unmarketed game against the Bulls with a Western Province team they hardly would have recognised. No, I think we busy heading in towards the debit, and my plan is, and I don't know whether, as I said to Harry, whether we get there, how much runway we've got. Is if we can get these Marcus Millers and Zach in 2 years' time, I want to win the Currie Cup. I think we have to. I don't think the people of Cape Town enjoy seeing 40 or 30 points. So I think we've got a finite time. Last year we prioritized our under 21s ahead of the Currie Cup, and we came second last. This year, we played 2. We haven't got 1 point in the log yet. So I think there is damage to. We wanted to make it more competitive. That's why we got the sevens guys in. We contracted, we got Kabos Yellow from Namibia. We got Alex Groves in just to try, and so I didn't, to try and be a bit more competitive. But geez, it can't go on for much longer. I can't say, I don't want to sit here next year and say we're just a development competition. What I did want is not to have to go to the 30-year-olds. I want these Zach Porthens as just a random to. So I reckon we've got 2 years. Maybe one more year we can be a little bit better, and then we have to be winning Currie Cup material, because that's the squad that's also going to do your URC home games to allow you to compete in Europe. Because I think all of us on this pod know that you can't compete in Europe with one team. We've all been smacked in the face with that. But I want our second team to come from these guys, and those are the guys who are going to win the Currie Cup for us. So I think any criticism coming our way now is probably due that we haven't got this right. So probably got another year. We'll take heat this year, but not much more. I agree with you completely, Emir. I didn't want us to get something like that last week, and it wasn't the plan. Our plan was, but when I saw the Bulls team, and suddenly they brought in Marvin Orri and Joandre Rudolph. We have to do that from within, but it's edgy. I agree with you completely.
I wanted to just talk to you about Labib Levy quickly. I didn't know who he was, honestly, because I'm from Pretoria. My world's quite small. It ends at the Yuxkay. And then when I spoke to him, he impressed me so much. Just tell me, just briefly, why you guys decided to give him the reins this year and what the plan is going forward. Because like I said, he is a coach steeped in everything, and he's been with you for a long time.
Yeah, he's a character, Bibi. We call him Justin, as in Justin Bieber. But Justin is because he's anything but a guy called Justin, isn't he? He's opposite. But he's from the Boer Cup. He's the mayor of the Boer Cup. But he's a really good he's just one of those amazing guys. You see him coach. He coaches the SA touch team. He coaches the the province girls. He drives his car. There are about 10 people jammed in going off to a touch tournament. He's a rugby nut. His brother is the vice president now we've been Manip since we've been released from administration back into normal administration. But he's a really high skills. We had the most offloads in the URC, and he's the skills guy. I think our logic with him was, he's been 15 years an assistant coach, but he had a really good reputation at club level as a head coach. He'd won a lot of stuff with SK Warmers, a lot of stuff with Collegians. So, and the community really like him, the community. And I think he's deserved a gig. I didn't want to do it last year because I knew last year we were even worse. That's because we'd said our order was URC under 21. This year, we try to beef up a bit and then sort of give it, and then try and preserve the URC preseason of 20 guys, because that's where we're going to get judged. But we try to help Labib with with the sevens guys. He's got priority over the under 21s. He's got the baby box, and they'll put together a better run now. But the guys play for him. He's just got that personality, and he understands more than I do the traditions and the ethos of Western Province rugby. So. Yeah, I just feel for him a little bit, because I know he wants to come and knock on my door, say, Dobby, give me Johnny Roach or give me Ruan Nell. And it's natural and it's tempting, and I want to do it for him, and maybe later in the competition. But I'm pleased to impress Jeremy, because he's a really good human being and a good coach.
No, as a human, he impressed me as well, apart from the coach. I just enjoy talking to him. One of those guys, an hour later, you know what it's like.
I tell you one thing, you get so passionate. He coached the game last year against the Cheetahs. It was a friendly Toyota challenge. And he's giving this team talk. He said, we're going to out-tackle them, we're going to outrun them, we're going to out-muscle them, we're going to out-hydrate them. That I can guarantee we can do.
Jeez, what does that look like?
His version of a hydration is different to your mine.
John, talking about out-hydrating someone, you guys out-hydrated the Bulls in that deluge game here at Loftus. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, we won't do justice to this podcast if we don't talk about this North-South rivalry. Why can we get full stadiums in either Cape Town or Pretoria when either of those two teams play against each other in a normal league game? What makes it so special? I spoke to you at the press conference here when you guys won it, and I saw how much it meant to you. Just talk to me about that history and, geeing the guys up to come play the old enemy kind of thing. What makes it so special, and what's the future of this?
So we got something special in South African rugby there. I mean, you can see the difference, that derby versus all the others. Look, it was helped. It's just that light blue against the stripes, and I can show them Mornay's tackle, in 77. I have. There's some of that stuff in the 80s. To me, the most beautiful sight in South African sport are those two jerseys. I don't like it when they don't. We were up in the black that game. When he runs on and you see when the teams run on, you see a light blue against a strip tray. No matter, it's just the most beautiful sight. And in 21, and some reason it stayed here, and it's obviously stayed up north. And look, we spice it up because it's something, as you know, it's the old thing of putting someone in the changing room wall. That they do this, and we the liberals and our style of rugby, and it's ons and hulle, as the Koos Kompai song goes, it's nice, and I think Jake did a really good job with that narrative, because he is a polarizing guy, and he clearly didn't like us, and that helped us not like them. And Dion Ferree had a couple of Jake's quotes before, literally on the changing room, and I'm sure he had of ours. I think Jake actually did a lot for that. He did a lot for it. And Jake helped us. We didn't want to lose to him desperately. And then I think that the last few years have probably added to the mystique of the derby, which is brilliant, because often traditions atrophy, don't they? So it just means so much. And I don't think, I think Johan Ackerman, in a very different way to Jake, a far less maybe out there way, is going to add to it, because he's an old blow bull, he's a springbok, he's a lock. He looks like the ultimate bull, doesn't he? And now we've got his son playing here, and yeah. I don't think it may lack some of the animosity of the derbies of the last while, but animosities are probably good for the derbies, but it's still going to have the edge to it. It's a brilliant thing for South African sport. I mean, we're sitting here looking, how on earth do we beat these buggers twice this season? And we'll put everything into it, But it probably, it just goes to those two derbies, the one in Cape Town, where we sell out easily, and Clayton misses a kick and the Bulls win us, and they beat us the first time in the URC in Cape Town. Those people from the way just walked out the ground. They didn't mind that we'd lost. They just seen a classic game, and it's remarkable. I reckon in Pretoria probably a similar thing. People just please be part. It's extraordinary property we've got.
Yeah, to me, it's what we built our pod around, obviously, the authenticity. There's something, you don't have to do a marketing program to get people into the idea. There's cultural antecedents. There are deeply held stereotypes. I was walking into Loftus 2 years ago, meeting some guys with Ringo Low, and someone said, "Is he a funny cop?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Is he a call me?" And I was like, how do we jump from there, for fuck's sake? So this is not something you can fabricate. It's like Liverpool versus Everton or something. You don't have to have a marketing program to get that started. Listen, we can talk all day, but I'm feeling that probably you have some things to do. You had a tough deluge practice today in Belleville. So looking forward to having beers with you and Rondebosch, Dobbo. This is a funny, substantive, revealing chat, and also Mvia is even more nervous now, which I love.
I'm not nervous. I'm angry. I'm very upset. I'm going to phone you.
There's only one emotion
now.
You can have in Pretoria, Mvia. You go from happy to angry. There's no nuanced emotions, man.
No, when it comes to the Storm, absolutely not.
One thing we're just getting started, by the way. With our shopping.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I wasn't born yesterday. I'm plugged into Loftus. I'm telling you that. I know what's going on there. I wanted to say something just a little bit more, whatever the word is, philosophical. Something that Harry and I both realize is, getting to know each other now. Harry had this idea of Afrikaans oukies like me waiting behind the rock on the way to home so we can ambush him and beat the living daylights out of him, and the other way around.
Didn't happen. I was one. Go ahead.
Attempted to beat the living daylights out of him. Sorry, Harry. But the point is that we got to know each other better, and it's not as bad as everybody made it out to be. We're actually not Neanderthals. We might have an Afrikaans accent, but we hide sharp intellects behind it. That's not me, of course, but some other guys that we know. Thanks, John. I really appreciate you making time for us. It was awesome. Thank you.
Now, listen, I get delighted now. I didn't before, and then I get delighted now when I see something coming on Megaphone Rugby, and I listen to it and I go, it's a great. I'm not being sycophantic now. We've already had the chat, but it's a great level of conversation, insight, the research that you've done into your topics before. Really, really, thank you. It's a privilege for me to be on, and I'll be an avid subscriber going forward.
Oh, awesome. Thanks.
And I'm taking Harry for a beer at Olympic. When you're in Cape Town, do you ever come into this horrible place, the deep carp?
I lived in Cape Town for a couple of years, and often when the Bulls were playing Western Province, I was the only guy cheering, and then I would be quiet, and the rest of the street would be cheering. So I know Cape Town. I've got friends there, believe it or not.
You to the Olympics.
Awesome. Cheers, Dobbo.
This is the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.